I used to believe that love belonged to people like me, the ones who had everything money could buy. Until the day I met him. And from that day on, everything I thought I knew about love, power, and destiny started to crumble. I was born into a world made of crystal. Every step I took echoed inside marble halls. Every smile was rehearsed, and every word was chosen carefully, like a line in a script I never auditioned for. My father was a businessman everyone feared. My mother, the image of elegance, always whispered the same line to me. You don't have to fall in love, you just have to marry right. I used to nod, pretending to agree. But deep down I wanted something different. Something raw. Something real. Something that didn't come with a price tag. The night I met him, the sky was bleeding rain. Our driver had missed the turn to the private gala. And I told him to stop near an old street corner so I could fix my makeup. That's when I saw him. A man in a soaked shirt, sleeves rolled up, helping an elderly woman pick up fallen groceries from the flooded road. There was something about the way he moved, fast but gentle, that caught my attention. I don't know why I got out of the car. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was loneliness. He turned to me, eyes dark and sharp like the storm behind him, and for a moment the whole city disappeared. Miss, you shouldn't be standing out here, he said, his voice deep, with a kind of sincerity I'd never heard before. That was the first time someone talked to me without knowing who I was. Without calculation. Without fear. He handed me my umbrella. The one I didn't even realize I'd dropped. When our hands touched, something in me shifted. It was so subtle, so silent, and yet it echoed louder than any applause I had ever received in my father's world. I found out later his name was Gene. He worked at a small repair shop near the train station, fixing watches and old radios, things people in my circle would throw away without a second thought. But he had a way of giving broken things another chance. Maybe that's why I was drawn to him. Because deep down I was one of them, broken in ways no one could see. I told myself I wouldn't see him again. But days turned into weeks and his face kept haunting me. His eyes, his laugh, the way he never looked at me like I was made of glass. So one afternoon I went back to that street. He was there, sitting by the shop window, fixing a small clock with his hands covered in grease. When he looked up and saw me, his eyes widened in disbelief. You again, he said with a half smile. Me again, I replied. That was how it began. No fireworks. No violins. Just two strangers, trying to understand why the world suddenly felt less empty when the other was around. I started visiting him in secret. At first it was innocent tea, small talk, and stolen glances. But every time I left, I felt like I was walking away from oxygen itself. He made me feel alive in a way that terrified me. My world was full of expectations. My father was already negotiating my engagement with the son of one of his business partners. It wasn't a proposal. It was a transaction. I was the price. So when Gene told me he wanted to see me again, I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because I already knew how impossible this was. But his words were simple, almost pleading. Sometimes you don't choose the person. The feeling chooses you. And I believed him. We began meeting every week, sometimes in the park, sometimes in the narrow alley behind his shop. He'd bring me small gifts. Not jewelry, not perfume, but things like a paper crane, a flower pressed inside a book, a music box that played a melody I'd never heard before. He said it reminded him of me. The simplicity of his world felt like a rebellion against everything I was raised to be. No masks. No titles. Just us, fragile, real human. But happiness in my world never lasted long. My father's assistant followed me one afternoon. He saw me with Gene. And that night, my father's voice thundered through the house like a storm. Do you have any idea what you're doing to this family? He shouted. He called Gene a distraction. A mistake. He said I was tarnishing the family's name by even speaking to someone beneath me. Beneath me. Those words cut deeper than any insult. That night I couldn't sleep. All I could see was Jin's face, the way he smiled, the way he looked at me like I was something worth saving. I realized then that I couldn't let my father decide what love meant for me. The next day I ran. I left the mansion, the cars, the endless mirrors reflecting a life I didn't want. I took a train to his part of the city, my heart pounding like it was about to burst. When he saw me, he froze. You came, he whispered. And I did something I had never done before. I cried. I don't care what they say. I told him through tears. I just want to be here. He didn't answer. He just held me. And for the first time I felt free. But freedom has a cost. Within days, my family found out where I was. They sent people to bring me back. Guards, drivers, the same faces that once bowed to me now pulling me away from the only place I ever felt alive. Gene tried to stop them. One of the men hit him. I screamed his name as they forced me into the car. It was raining again, the same way it was when we first met. Through the glass, I saw him standing in the street, blood on his lip, eyes full of pain and love. That image never left me. Days passed, then weeks. I was locked inside my own home, my phone taken, my world reduced to silence and walls. They told me Gene was gone, that he'd disappeared, that he probably realized he didn't belong in my life. But I didn't believe them. I could still feel him. Every night, I'd close my eyes and hear the sound of the small clock he once gave me, ticking softly like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Then one evening I received a letter. No name, no address, just my name on the front in handwriting I knew by heart. Inside there were only a few words. If love means setting you free, then I'll wait for you in the next life. I dropped the letter. My knees gave out. For the first time I realized what it meant to lose something real. Years passed after that. I did everything expected of me. Attended parties, smiled at strangers, wore diamonds that weighed more than my heart. But inside I was empty. The world clapped for the woman I became, but no one saw the girl who had died long ago in the rain. Sometimes I walked by the same street corner where we met. The repair shop was gone, replaced by a cafe. But I still looked through the window, half expecting to see him there, sleeves rolled up, fixing something broken. I never did. Until one afternoon. I was sitting inside that same cafe, drinking coffee I didn't even want, when I heard a familiar sound. The soft tick of a clock, the same melody he once played for me. I turned around, and there he was. Older, maybe thinner, but still him. Gene. For a moment, neither of us moved. The world stopped again, just like it did all those years ago. He smiled, not with surprise but with a quiet kind of peace. Like he'd been waiting for this moment all along. Do you still believe in impossible love? He asked softly. I wanted to speak, but my voice broke. All I could do was nod as tears filled my eyes. And then he said, maybe it was never impossible. Maybe it was just waiting for us to become the kind of people who could fight for it. The sound of his voice felt like coming home. That was the day I learned, love doesn't disappear. It hides, it waits, it transforms. It becomes part of who you are. And sometimes it dares to come back. When I saw him again, standing there in that cafe, it felt like time had folded itself in half, like the years between us had only been a long pause between two breaths. We didn't rush to speak. We didn't need to. The silence carried everything. The loss, the longing, the questions neither of us dared to ask. He was still Gene, but something in his eyes had changed. There was a calmness there. A quiet strength that came from pain endured and peace earned. He looked at me the same way he did years ago, like he could see through all the diamonds, all the layers of who I had become, straight into the girl who once ran away in the rain just to feel alive. I broke the silence first. I thought I lost you, I whispered. He smiled gently. You did. But sometimes, you have to lose something to find what it really means. We sat down together, two ghosts of our former selves, brought back to life by a single coincidence, or maybe fate's cruel sense of timing. He told me about his years after I was taken away, how he left the city, worked in small towns fixing whatever people brought him, clocks, radios, even broken doors. He said he found peace in repairing things, in giving the broken another chance. I listened, tears in my eyes, realizing he'd been doing for others what he once did for me. And then he asked, "What about you?" I laughed softly, not out of joy but disbelief. What could I say? That I had everything and nothing at the same time? That I wore the right dresses, smiled at the right people, attended the right events, and yet every night I dreamed of him? I tried to live without you, I said. I tried to be what they wanted. But I wasn't alive, Gene. I was just existing. He looked down, his fingers brushing the cup between us. I used to wonder if you hated me, he said quietly, for not coming after you. I reached across the table, my hand finding his. How could I hate the only person who ever made me feel real? The cafe was full, but it felt like we were alone in the world. The sound of rain began to fall outside, soft, steady, familiar. It was almost as if the universe remembered the day we met and wanted to play it again. He said he was leaving the city the next morning, moving to a small town by the sea, where he had bought a little shop. He invited me to visit someday, not as the woman from another world, but as myself. That night I went home and sat by my window, staring at the lights of the city that once felt like a cage. And I asked myself the question that had haunted me for years. Was I brave enough to love again? I didn't sleep. At dawn I made my decision. I packed a single suitcase, not the kind my father's assistants used to carry for me, filled with jewelry and gowns, but one that only held a few things that mattered. The letter he once wrote, the small clock he fixed for me, and a heart that finally knew what it wanted. I left a note for my parents. No explanations. No goodbyes. Just one sentence. I'm finally choosing my own life. Then I took the first train to the coast. The journey felt like a confession, each mile washing away a little more of the girl I used to be. When I arrived, the air smelled of salt and freedom. I walked through narrow streets until I saw it. A small shop with a wooden sign that read, Jin's Repairs. He was there inside, fixing a watch, his glasses slightly crooked, the morning light falling across his face. When he looked up and saw me, the tool in his hand slipped. For a second he froze, and then he smiled wide and bright, the kind of smile that makes you believe in second chances. I thought you said you'd visit someday, he teased softly. I didn't want to wait for someday, I replied. I've waited long enough. He walked toward me, slow, hesitant, as if afraid I might vanish again. But I didn't. I stayed right there. When he reached me, he didn't speak. He just pulled me into his arms, and everything, every storm, every heartbreak, every year apart, melted away. We stood there, wrapped in silence and warmth, listening to the ocean outside. For the first time in forever, I felt home. Days turned into weeks, and I began to rebuild my life with him. Not as the daughter of a businessman, not as the woman who ran away, but as someone learning what love truly meant. We opened the shop together. He taught me how to fix watches, how to hold something delicate and give it a second heartbeat. He said it was the same with people. Sometimes you just have to believe they're still capable of ticking. One afternoon, a storm hit the coast, thunder, rain, the kind that reminded us of the night we met. We lost power and I panicked for a moment, afraid the past was coming back for us. But he lit a candle and said, "We survived worse than this. We can survive a little darkness." We laughed, holding hands as the storm raged outside. It wasn't just the weather, it was life testing us again. But this time we were ready. Months passed. My parents eventually found out where I was. I expected anger, threats, maybe even shame. But instead my mother came to see me. She stood at the doorway of our small shop, elegant as always, but with eyes softer than I remembered. "I thought you'd hate me forever," I said. She shook her head. "No, darling. I envied you." She told me my father was ill, that he had asked about me, that maybe deep down he regretted the way things ended. So I went to see him. When I walked into his room, he looked fragile, smaller somehow. The man who once ruled entire boardrooms now trapped in a quiet bed. He turned to me and said, "You look happy." "I am," I replied. He smiled faintly. "Then I suppose I was wrong all along. Love isn't about status. It's about peace." Those were his last words to me. He passed away a few days later, and for the first time I didn't feel anger or resentment, only gratitude. Because he gave me something he never could before, his blessing. After the funeral, I returned to the coast. Jean was waiting at the station, holding a single white flower. When he saw me, he didn't ask how it went. He just opened his arms and I walked straight into them. From that moment, I knew that everything, every tear, every heartbreak, had led us right here. Not to a fairy tale, but to something real. Years later, we still lived in that same little town. Our shop grew, but we never left the small room upstairs that smelled of coffee and rain. Every evening we'd sit by the window, listening to the waves and the ticking of countless clocks, filling the room with soft, steady music. Sometimes customers would come in and ask how we met. I'd smile and say, "In the rain." He was fixing someone else's problem when he accidentally fixed mine. They'd laugh, not knowing how true that was. One night, as the sun disappeared into the sea, Jean looked at me and said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't met that night?" I shook my head. "No, because we did. And that's enough." He smiled, leaned closer and whispered, "You saved me." I looked at him, tears in my eyes. "No, Jean. We saved each other. And we did. Because love, real love, doesn't need permission or perfection. It doesn't follow rules or care about the walls built to keep it apart. Just finds a way. We were proof of that. Two worlds that never should have touched. Yet somehow we built one of our own. And as the years went on, I realized that the impossible isn't something to fear. It's something to fight for. Maybe that's what love really is. Not the fairy tale. Not the ending. But the courage to keep believing, even when the world says you shouldn't. I sometimes think about that young girl I used to be, the one who stood in the rain watching a stranger fix something broken. If I could tell her one thing, I'd say this: hold on. One day that storm will lead you home. And every night before bed, when the last light fades, I hear the soft ticking of that little clock Jean gave me years ago. Still beating, still alive. Just like us. Because love never truly ends. It transforms. It survives. It waits. Until we're brave enough to find it again. Sometimes when the rain falls outside our window, I close my eyes and listen. It sounds the same as it did that first night. When two worlds collided and something impossible was born. I reach for Jin's hand and he squeezes it, as if to remind me that we made it. Against all odds, against all logic, we dared to love and love dared to stay. And in that quiet, endless rhythm of rain and heartbeats, I finally understand. The impossible isn't what separates us. It's what makes love worth everything.